People who work in surveillance. What's the most unexplained or creepy thing you've seen on video? Story 1. I used to work overnights at a hotel and would monitor the security cameras. They would detect motion and a little indicator would blink when motion was, well, detected. Anyway, it always gave me the creeps when I'd heard the elevator ding. I'd run out to the lobby to greet the guests to make sure they didn't need something or whatever, and nobody would get off the elevator. I'd watch the tapes and see the motion indicator blinking on a floor, then see the elevator open on that floor, then see the elevator open on the ground floor, and the motion indicator blink on the camera down the hall. Gave me the heebie-jeebies. Also, one time I was in my office in the middle of the night, and it sounded like someone banged on the door with the side of their fist. Just one single slam. You can see me reacting to it on the video. My head whipped to face the door where the sound came from, then immediately whipped around to stare at the camera to see who the was outside my door. There was nobody there, and none of the motion sensors had picked up anything. Not fun finishing the rest of that shift. Story 2. I was house-sitting in a huge house and set up a canary camera near my bedroom. I had an uneasy feeling someone else was in the house with me, so I set up the camera just to make sure no one came near my room. In the middle of the night, someone approached it from behind and turned it so it faced a blank wall. Then, a few minutes later, turned it back the way it was before. It tripped the canary and I got a notification on my phone. I saw it and searched the house thoroughly the next morning and never found anything. Needless to say, I slept with my door locked the rest of my time there. Story 3. I worked in a maximum security prison for a while. I was assigned to Central Control one night, which is where the camera screens were. One of the cameras was for the classifications room. I glanced at it and there was an inmate in there. This was super odd because it was 2 in the morning and nobody was supposed to be in there. Everyone that had keys to that room went home at 5. Anyways, so this inmate is just sitting in there doing nothing. I got the sergeant's attention and told him someone was in there and gave him the spare key to the room. He went to go check it out with a couple of other people, but by the time they got there, the room was empty. They searched for like 15 minutes, but there was definitely no one in there. The cameras were like on a rotating loop, if that makes sense. So one rotation there was someone sitting there. The next one, maybe 5 to 10 seconds later, he had totally vanished. Really freaked me out. Story 4. I used to be a guard at a correctional facility. It seems those places just invite creepy things. When I was training as a runner one night, I was going with my FTO to relieve someone for a break. I had left my water sitting on top of the water cooler in that POD. When we entered the POD, I saw my cup slide off of the water cooler, hang in the air for a split second, and splash onto the ground. I turned and saw my FTO who looked unnerved, so I asked him if he saw that. He told me, "I didn't see shit, dude." He refused to talk about it after that. Another time when I was a runner for the building our isolation unit was in, I heard the bars shaking in one of the units. It was after lockdown, so I was a little perturbed by this inmate making noise. So I pulled my keys, unlocked the cell, and saw the bars shaking, but the inmate cowering in the corner crying. After a couple of seconds, the bars stopped shaking. I hung out with the inmate for a while, calming him down. I made up some bullshit about how we had water pipes that were causing the bars to shake. Unfortunately, that cell was pretty notorious for being haunted. Finally, me and several other runners were called out to search the building for someone who was seen entering our visitation lobby around 11:30 p.m. I checked the only doors going into the lobby, and they were fully secured. We searched for a good 30 minutes, even climbing into the false ceiling, and never found a person matching the description given. Story 5. I used to have an apartment pretty close to my office. The office building was kind of in a business district. I sold the apartment, and before moving into my new home, I left my bicycle chained to the building's bike rack. It was only going to be there for a few days in that no man's land before I was able to move into the new place. Anyway, one day in the middle of the week, I come into the office, walk past the bike rack, and notice that it's completely empty. The building has a bunch of security cameras, and one more or less is facing the bike rack, since it's adjacent to the front entryway. I sit and watch the security tape with the IT guy. We are watching, see everyone leaving the office the night before, see the bike, keep watching, then all of a sudden, poof, bike gone. We slowed the tape down, and it seemed like when you're watching digital cable or satellite and the image gets garbled. Literally it was, bike there, then, poof, gone. In the tape's timestamp, it literally happened in 1 second. I assume my bike got taken to the upside down. Story 6. This happened a few years before I started working at my current job. The elevators in my building go down to the first and second basement. Late one night, one of our security guards spots a group of people heading into the elevator at level 4. He thinks it's curious because nobody is supposed to be in the building after midnight, so he keeps a close watch on all the lobby cameras to see which floor the group alights at. The doors open at basement 2, but nobody comes out. The second guard scurries down to the elevator door while the first guard keeps his eyes on the cameras to make sure no one has left. When the second guard gets to the basement elevator, he looks puzzled and searches around. He comes back to the guard station to confirm that it's empty. Putting the building on lockdown, the two guards spend the rest of the night combing the building together, but they weren't able to find anyone or anything. They decide to call the police, who review the footage and see the same thing. In the end, the sighting was still unexplained, but my workplace decided to stop being cheap and install security cameras in the elevators too. Story 7. I used to work at a place which required to be manned 24 hours a day. Reason being is that I handled sensitive documents, files, and if somebody needed this information in the middle of the night, I would have to fetch it for them or confirm that I have it. Anyways, security is kind of tight. Bars on windows, multiple locked doors to get to where I am. They would give me work to do during the night, but underestimated how quickly I could get it done. So, like most nights, I finished my work in like 30 or 45 minutes and pulled out my phone and played games, watched Netflix, or browsed Reddit, since nobody else was in the building at night. So, now it is getting to be the last third of my shift, when all of a sudden I hear a door close. I look at the security camera and see someone walking down a hall towards my room. At first I thought it was just somebody that came in, ridiculously early. So I turned around and waited for them to come in. But nobody came in, and the hair starts rising on my back. Now, this isn't a really big building, so I figure I'll find the guy, whatever he is, and start checking offices and storage rooms, but come empty-handed. However, I do see that a fire door had shut. I go to try and rewind the camera, but the digital recording is password protected, and I don't know the password. Anyways, the whole thing freaked me out. The way that person was walking down the hallway, like a determined walk right to where I was. So I sit with my spine tingling for the last couple hours of my shift, and finally people start coming in. My replacement shows up and I tell her what I saw, and at this point I figured I must have imagined the whole thing. I'm told to go home, and the manager and girl who replaced me would look over the camera. After getting home, I called my manager and asked what was on the camera. So they said that the video showed the fire door closing, but then the video froze for about an hour. The next thing it records is me reopening the door. Story 8. Not in surveillance, but I used to work at a college and I had to review 18 hours of security footage once to see who was vandalizing some bulletin boards. It happened sometime between noon on Saturday and 8 a.m. on Sunday, so I had to sit there and review the footage. I watched a half-dozen couples fight, a high guy stare at the bulletin board for probably 10 minutes at 3 p.m., a drunk girl in heels fall over and drag her two other friends down with her. They then rolled around laughing their asses off at 9 p.m., a couple finger-banging in the hall at 11 p.m., a dude in a chicken costume going for a stroll at 3 a.m., some shady dude in a hood wander around and press his ear to doors at 4 a.m. Let me know your stories in the comments to be part of a future video. Like and subscribe to be notified of new uploads, and click on this video to hear more stories.